Hello, hello, and welcome to another episode of Four Mics, Four Men. And as usual, we have the usual cast, so we'll bring them in now. And tonight we have a special guest. Now, this special guest is near and dear to me. He is definitely my brother, and we brought him here to share his story so that we can further discuss pain and trauma, but also how you get to the other side of pain and trauma. So let's welcome Justin White. Justin, how you doing, my brother?
Hey, what's up, bro? You good?
Yeah, man, doing well.
Man, it's been a minute since I seen you, dude. This COVID thing is real.
I know, right?
We gotta do lunch, dude.
Absolutely,
Good to see you, Justin.
How the bougie way.
Good to see you, man.
Yes.
Yeah. And Gabriel, you met Justin before, right? Or is this your first time?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, man. Yeah, Gabe's a great guy. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's good to see you, Justin. It's good to see
And of
you.
course, Pops in the back. Yeah, man. Pops is, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I had to travel out of the country to get a smile like Pops. I'm telling you. I had to get some help with it. You know, I had to.
Oh my. That's all right. That's all right, man.
It's good to have you here. So for those of you joining us, man, we've been on this journey. The whole title of this series is The Journey to Manhood. And so we've had various episodes that have captured different portions of our lives. And so this is the second part in this episode, the second episode in this series dealing with trauma. And so we talked about some of the trauma that we had in the last episode. So now we're bringing Justin, my brother, here to share his story. And then we can all just kind of talk about it. So Justin, trauma, you've been through a lot, man. And I know just from the bottom of my heart, I could say that you've been through a lot just from what you've shared. But why don't you share your story so that we can kind of talk about it and connect?
Sure. Like you want me to start from the get-go, bro? Because it's a couple of chapters in that book, man.
Yeah, man.
It's the boogeyman coming out. Yeah, but
That's all right, man.
Honestly, humor has been something that has gotten me through a lot of years. Being able to laugh and to make others laugh. Mm-hmm. So my story is, it's really multifaceted. So when I was younger, my dad was 16 years older than my mom. And my dad had a medical procedure to make sure he did not have children. Let me just, he had a vasectomy. And so when my mom got pregnant, the entire time I did not know that there was an air of resentment there. Because he was that much older than her. He had already had all of his kids. He thought he was done. She's his fifth wife. And here I come looking just like him. As a matter of fact, I look more like him than my siblings do.
Wow.
I'm his twin. And so he knew that he was going to die. So he was with my mom. He had emphysema. And he had been diagnosed with emphysema, and my eldest sister knew, but he swore her to secrecy.
Mercy.
And so she's over 20 years older than me. She's, I think, 7 years younger than my mom, his eldest daughter. And so that's been a whole nother situation that I didn't even know, that I recently found out. So that's now made it to another chapter of the book. But as a result of that happening, my dad didn't really build an attachment with me. He was a father nonetheless. He was a provider nonetheless. He gave direction and instruction nonetheless, but he wasn't Abba. He wasn't daddy. And so as a result of that, he didn't spend much time with me. I spent a lot of time with my mom. I remember my dad they had gone to a point they got to a point in their marriage where they weren't even in the same bedroom. He would be on the couch most times, and I would be in the bed with her. So that's one thing in and of itself too. I was her protector. So from a woman, and think about it from a mother and a woman standpoint, that's what she needs. That's what she sees it as. But imagine as a boy how when it goes on for too long,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can mess with you. And so so yeah, like that part of my life kind of happened. And I remember my first memory was my dad telling my mom, I told you I don't want to have no DAMN kids. Like I told you. And she was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, he ain't mine. And she said, yes, he is. And he said, no, I made sure. He's like, I ain't supposed to be able to have kids. Like, well, what's the problem? Like, you act like you don't want him. He said, because I'm not gonna live to see him get grown. That's the first thing I remember. And for me as a kid, I thought that meant my dad didn't love me. That was not the case. My dad loved me, but it helped me to grow up with this issue. So, needless to say, when they got ready to get divorced, which they did, my mom, my daddy knew the Lord, but he didn't know him in the pardon of his sins kind of situation.
Justin, just one quick question there. How old were you at that time? Because you remembered all of this. How old were you?
I had to be about 9, 10. About 9, 10 around that time. And here's the thing. I was honestly raised as a younger sibling to my mom. Because my grandmother ended up being like a mother to me. And so I really never got a chance to be a child. Like I never really got a chance to be a kid. And so, you know, I got to the point where my mom ended up getting thyroidism. And this is back in the 80s before they knew how to deal with it and they killed it. My mom, she's been on straight steroids for over 45 years.
Man, wow.
So when she got big, it wasn't fat big, it was solid big. And my daddy, you know, to go from the little petite thing with the small waist to being somebody who's sick and getting bigger, you know what I'm saying? And so early on, I got used to putting on my mama's shoes. You know, I got used to certain times combing her hair. Certain times when she would be in a tub and need something and can't maneuver to get it, I had to come in and I had to get it. You know what I'm saying? And so this will continue in through ages where a boy really, you know what I'm saying, ain't supposed to see. But almost to the point of being a caregiver, almost. And seeing it like that and seeing now taking care of a woman and taking care of your mother, like that's what it means. You know?
So, you know, sorry to interrupt there, but did you feel any type of heavy burden? Because I mean, you're forced to grow up fast in this instance, you know, faster than a whole lot of individuals taking that caretaker role. Did you feel any heaviness or some type of resentment, or what did you feel?
Not until much later. I felt honored.
Okay.
I felt honored because in my standpoint, I was learning how to become a man because I was handling what was needed, but I wasn't getting an example. So I responded as a man when I was a boy, but it wasn't in the limelight that a man would deal with a situation. I learned how to deal through masculinity by being a provider, security, nurturer for a woman, not learning rough, tumble, this, that, the other. I learned how to provide in such a way where something like if the plumbing went down, I knew how to fix the plumbing. You know what I'm saying? But currently, if she couldn't get to a right spot on her toenail polish, I knew how to paint toenails too.
Right.
So if the AC went out, I tinkered with it and figured it out. So I could do all of those things that an old man could probably do, that a husband could do, but also certain things that honestly a daughter would be able to help with as well. You know, but in my eyes, I was a hero. You know, and the resentment that I did have for my mom, it was misplaced because her situation was her situation, and our relationship is so much better now. But as a result, then like it grew up into this thing where it's like I felt like my mom was teaching me how to be a husband. I knew I would be a great husband because of how I could look out for some of that was done in while her dealing with emotional abuse, verbal abuse from my father, who was dying and nobody knew until he was real sick.
You know, sorry, I gotta dig in that a little bit. You know, so you said a whole lot in there, and you know, when you bring in the verbal abuse and the emotional abuse, like, is this something? How did that make you feel? Is it something that you just knew about, or did you see it, hear it? You know,
yes, I heard it and I knew that it was wrong. I knew, but the blood in my family runs really thick. And you know how they talk about generational curses and things like that. Sometimes the enemy sets you up in such a way where you're backed into the corner, and you're backed into the corner by all of the curses at the same time. And you're the person, and watch this, God has dictated you as the person to break all of it.
Mercy.
Not on ability alone. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, because right there is a question. Here you are at that young age, experiencing those things, impacting you. What about your peers? What kind of relationship were others seeing you, knowing what you were going through? Did you communicate those things to them? How was that interaction going up as you were coming up?
My peers were adults. I would be in adult conversations, and I would have relevant points. I was reading the Word at 9. I was reading sheet music at 9. You know, I was reading man books because my mom needed a husband and my daddy wasn't gonna be it. So I need to figure out how to become a man. So I was reading books like, you know, The Way of a Superior Man before, you know, I'm supposed to be doing this type of stuff.
Wow.
I'm reading these things and educating myself. I'm reading Song of Solomon. I'm learning how, even though she's my mom, if this is my wife, how do I be compassionate and sexy and stuff? Like, I was learning way too much too fast because I saw how bad it hurt.
Mercy.
To be invisible in the midst of somebody that, you know what I'm saying? It's just
So, I want to go back to the when you talked about your relationship with your dad, and you said that you felt he was just a provider. And in previous episodes, I said that too. My dad, and again, was generational, where I think his dad was the same way to him. So look, I'll discipline you, I'll provide for you, but there was no relationship. So I mean, and for me, like I said before, I always envy the Cosby Show. You know, man, Theo, and I'm like, so I mean, how did you feeling that you didn't have that relationship with your dad? Because I think as a son, you want that relationship with your dad, right? You want that connection, but when you don't have it, and my dad, was because I think he didn't get it from him, so he basically was emulating what he saw. How did you feel about that?
I wanted it, but I had no proper example of it. So it wasn't a reality that I could even attain. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't comprehend that was a reality. My grandfather had PTSD before we knew what PTSD was. Get this. He would, Lord forgive me. He was the roughest on my mother because of the uniqueness of how my mother came into the situation. She was an unexpected pregnancy. You see what I'm saying? So I saw that on that side, and then I see it with my daddy. So it's just like, all I know is these aren't the type of dudes I want to be. You know what I'm saying? That's all I knew. And so because of that, it's like, yes, I would see other guys' dads, but do you know how you have to be careful what you speak, because your words will create a paradigm and an experience. So for me, when I would talk to other homeboys at the time, which were friends, and what would end up happening is a lot of time I would be bullied because I would be effeminate. I would be bullied, and we would end up being friends because they would see you push him into a wall, and this little Negro will fight back. You know, I was always the smallest of everybody, and so my friends were really people that went to church. But when I was at school, I was more so ostracized. I mean, I was popular, I was funny, people liked me, but I was never a part of a clique, a gang. I was always a black sheep. Always somebody that people look at, you know what I'm saying? And now I know, because a lot of them, even from elementary school, I've ran into, and they would say how they admired me. It was something unique about me that stood out. But like, I had a stutter. So here's the main thing. I'm going through all of this time having a stutter. In the process of all of this happening, I've been molested by a female family member.
Mercy.
So, you know, I'm talking about like 7, 8-ish, like right in that age, right? 6, like 7, 8-ish. And
on top of all of that.
On top of all of that. You know, and it wasn't a it happened one time type of deal. It was it's happened a couple of times type of deal. And everybody knows that it's like my dad's not spending a lot of time with me. I'm spending more time with my mom. You know, I am getting a little effeminate with my movements and stuff like that. You know, one of my favorite shows to watch is I Love Lucy and Golden Girls. Like, you know, stuff like that. You know, I know about, you know, General Hospital. I know about The Young and the Restless. You know, I know about all these shows. You know what I'm saying? Man, all of them. You know, like I know about these. I know about Erica Kane. Like, let's go. And so it's funny because watch this. Y'all are laughing because on the fly side, y'all kind of know what I'm talking about too. But it's cool.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I don't know if it was a mama or a sister or wife. They were watching it a little too loud, and you kind of got into it. Like,
So Justin, I have a question. So are you married?
Yes.
Okay.
This is technically my third marriage.
Okay. All right. So you know, and feel free what you want to divulge or not. So based upon the way you grew up, do you believe some of the challenges that you had affected either how you chose a mate, 1, 2, 3, or why it didn't work out with 1, 2, 3? Did any of those things spill into you know, those relationships that now that you've gone through those relationships, you're like, you know what? I see that this was my problem and I picked it up from, you know, something dealing with your dad or your mom or whatever the case may be. Did you have a situation or have you noticed anything like that?
Yeah, man, absolutely. And it's ironic that you're saying it because this marriage now has been a very healing situation. But I would say healing in the way of seeing it, being mature enough to recognize it, and realizing that it is the end of a cycle of what had been done all those other times. You know, and now mind you, that does not mean that sometimes, as you know, as in brothers, you know, sometimes in order for you to recognize a cycle, somebody has to be, you know, somebody has to be a part of the swirl, if you will. And so, you know, so I've even made some mistakes that I've, praise God, been able to catch, and I'm still working on now. But most definitely, I think that I'm still realizing a lot of things. But I think that I'm the most aware. And I used to think I was really aware, but I feel I am really the most aware. And I bet you if I ask you, Lester, or you, Pop, because I know y'all are, so I don't mean significantly, but you know, y'all got a couple years on me, you know. So
Gabriel too. Me and Gabriel are the same age. Don't leave him out. Don't leave him out.
I'm young.
But you know, as brothers, I think that y'all can kind of share with me that that's a part of the experience. Like it's gonna be never ending. You know what I'm saying? And because you all are to a significance, where it's like, I've gone through this. I'm older. I know at 35, I thought I had it until I got to 40. At 40, I thought I had it till I got to 43. Like, you know what I'm saying? And for me, I really think though that for my psyche and what I've been through in releasing a lot of the pain that I've been through, that now is the most aware that I've been. But the problem is that I thought I was extra aware before. You know?
Right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So one part of your story that I found interesting, my parents got divorced too, but a little later in life. And one thing that you brought up, for a while, I had to play the role of son, and I felt like the role of husband. Like because she was married for 23 years, and as she was mourning, basically that's what it is when you divorce, you're mourning that process. I felt like, okay, I have to be a son, but also I almost have to play the role of husband, which was kind of strange. So I mean, so how did that affect you? Because for me, I thought it was like you said, yes, she's your mom, and we're all of us, I think, are mama's boys. Yeah, mama needs something, I'm gonna be there for her. But at the same time, it almost felt like, man, I have the burden of being a son and also being a husband, kind of. And then, I have my little sister, so I'm a dad, and I'm still in my 20s. So I mean, how did that make you feel, like, taking on these responsibilities, but you're like, look, I'm still a kid.
I wanna add a responsibility, and then I'll tell you how it made me feel. Add a daughter to that as well, because there were certain things I knew how to do as a young boy, okay, that your average young boy didn't know how to do. You know what I'm saying? And so, but based on all of that, it made me it honestly made me resentful that I was the age that I was. Honestly. Sometimes I felt that way because I really wanted to leave. Other times I felt that way because I wanted to be a kid. Sometimes I felt that way, you know what I'm saying? And the funny thing is, guys, if you ask any son of a single mother, okay, watch this, who's been through divorce, who's had a husband,
that's right.
And then he leaves, and this son is right at that age where he can manage some stuff. Like, it's a lot of men out there that have been hurt that way, not knowing, because they were expected to provide before they knew what provision really was, what ability came with it, and how to manage it as a man. And when you watch this, when you take on too much weight before you're ready, what happens? You contort. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you can't either, if it's not substantial, it can't sustain. And
that's really a weight that you have borne over the years, and as you got into the relationship, developing that relationship toward marriage. What did you discover?
Yeah, you kind of went out a little bit.
Okay, can you ask that question again, sir?
I was asking, you having all of that weight on you, and that kind of responsibility that you shouldered up until the time when you decided to get into a relationship. How did that transition from just being a single adult now into a relationship, moving toward marriage? What kind of experience did you have there? Rocky experiences? Did some of those early years experience come back to you? And did you have some kind of repellent toward your prospective wife? And how did that play out in that relationship?
I think that because I was so aware of what it took to be a woman, that I developed expectation that is out of this world for, she would have to be Superwoman. She'd have to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? Wonder Woman. She would have to know, she would have to be a Proverbs 31 woman. You know, because for me, it was like, you know, oh, you gonna get mad and not cook? Oh, fine. I know how to cook. I know how to sew. I know how to press hair. You know, I know how to mop. I know how to clean. Straight up. You know, I know how to wipe your tail too. Like for real, like all of that because I was taking care of everybody. And watch this. It mostly everybody was women.
Yeah.
Like I know what it is to wipe booty. Excuse me, I'm sorry, but you know, grown women's, you know, tail because they're unable to.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I had to do that for my grandmother when she had dementia, and so, but these are things that I knew how to do early on.
Yeah.
You know, and so going into a relationship with somebody, like the expectations were insurmountable, man. They I mean, I don't think any woman could live up to it.
Yeah.
And it's almost as though I expected them to be as my mom, but definitely don't be her. You know what I'm saying? It's like, know all of these things, get all of this, have all this wisdom about womanhood. At the same time, don't you dare come at me like that and expect that and need me. And because that propels. So it's like I'm basically loving and hating a situation and not knowing that. And I can talk about this now because when I tell you, me and my mom are dope, like that is my go-to. She really is. And she still makes adjustments to understand me now that I've learned how to speak up for myself.
Yeah.
But you know, yeah, it has affected honestly every single relationship. So I would be the boyfriend, but I would be the boyfriend that knew how to do your hair. I could braid your hair if I needed to. You know what I'm saying? I would take you shopping. One of the girlfriends I was with, I actually showed her how to walk in heels. Like straight up. Wow. But watch this. In spite of all that stuff, right? I never experienced a desire for another man. I always question though, if God allows this much bad stuff to happen to me.
Mercy.
Like how could that not be the outcome? And so that's what I would, not that it was a pulling or a wanting, but like, excuse me, Pop. I'm like, well, hell, I'm just like, I mean, what else you want? You know? So because I think we've gotten into the story, but we've lost. CJ knows it gets worse. Like it gets darker. But if I can get back to it, y'all. So all this stuff is happening. I moved to Austin with my mother, who's trying to escape my dad. And during the summer, I'm coming back to Dallas for the summer. And at this time, I'm learning how to play the piano. Now, everybody else has played the piano. Like my granny was willing to teach all her kids and, you know, the other cousins and stuff. I'm the one that stuck with. My mom also was another one that is stuck with. So watch this, because y'all remember I said cycles. I got cycles on my daddy's side and cycles on my mama's side. So, but experiencing that, it's like now here it is. I am playing and I'm doing really good. And there's an older boy in the community that's like, hey, talking to my granddad, hey, Mr. Such and such, you know, I'll look after Justin. You know, I make sure that while he's out here, everything is good. You know. And I would go out and so-called play, and I would be straight up and down, y'all. I mean, we men, like this wouldn't be molestation, this would be rape. You know, I let it happen. I would get a busted lip, or you could tell I'd been in a fight. And when I got back to that same granddad, who again was hardest on my mom, right? You know, I would catch it. Holy
mercy.
You know, straight up. And it had gotten to the point where his whoopings were worse than that, because at least from that, I could dissociate. I could take myself away from that.
Mercy.
And for a while, it would happen every summer, and I'd go back home and stuff like that. And then, but it had gotten to the point where I had learned how to, and it wasn't like, it's like, honestly, what I remember of it is flashes, because it was that, and didn't know how bad it got until I got older and had some like therapy, like some clinical stuff, you know. And I mean, I have checked myself into mental facilities type stuff, and but yeah, it was bad, and so it got to the point where it happened for years. But the only time I didn't have to go outside, and watch this, it was a reoccurring cycle. When I did let him do it, I'd get beat up. I go in the house, I get beat. I'd be told, go back outside, learn how to be a boy. Beat up, beat, you get pushed back outside.
Yeah, mercy.
After, watch this, I fought, but that don't mean me fighting didn't make it not happen.
Yeah.
So either I can have this one thing happen, or I can have 1, 2, 3 happen. So after a while, it's like you feel it's almost like Celie said, like she felt like Mister was going to the toilet on her. Like she said, that's what it felt like for real. You know, and dealing with that for years, and the only way to escape it was practicing the piano. Because when I practiced the piano, it was almost like David playing for Saul. I learned how to play hymns, and I was walking up and down the piano. I mean, everything. My grandmother played, and I played, and I didn't know that her playing, that she dealt with dissociation, and her playing was a way of escape for her as well.
Wow.
When I was playing church, you could always tell she would reach this zone of this of whatever, and she'd be gone, y'all. I'm telling you, she would not be there. And I could hear her play, but when she reached that level of worship within God, it was like I could tell that there were times in her childhood, it had to be times in her childhood where music was the only thing to take her away. And I swear she would fly up off that organ stool, and the church would go in an uproar. And I remember being able to do the same thing as a boy because of what I was going through. Not knowing that as a child, I would find out later that as a child, she had gone through some stuff. Okay. And then her mother as a child had gone through some stuff. And my mother as a child had gone through stuff. And my mom, I wasn't supposed to be here first. It was somebody else that was. Y'all take that how you want to. I'll put it out there. But I want y'all to understand trauma and cycles, okay? It's a part of my mom's testimony now, too. And it's not my place to tell it, but it's a part of mine subsequently. But I wasn't supposed to be here first. There was somebody else who was supposed to be here first. And my mom told me, she said, I feel in my spirit that was my daughter. Because that cycle, what happened to me, watch, come to find out when I'm older, happened up here. And then happened up here, and it happened up here. And it happened to all these women that were musicians, could sing, dissociation, trauma, abuse, rape, like all of that happened over generations. And bam, it would have happened to a girl, but the girl didn't make it. And here I come, and I'm the one that catch the hell, if you will.
Right. So you brought up therapy.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, because you brought up a lot of things. You know, one thing you brought up was, you know, how us men, especially men whose parents been divorced, and you're with your mom. I feel the same way. Where my mom was super mom. She's super mom. She does everything.
Yes.
And it almost puts an unfair on your wife that you want her. Hey, you wait. My mom does that. She woke up early. She did this. She did that. What you doing? So you put that on them, not knowing that was because you know what, your mom was super mom. You know, that's one thing that you mentioned, and I think, but as a therapy piece, and I saw this in previous episodes, I always say, look, there's nothing wrong with therapy and Jesus. My question for you is, when did you figure out, you know what, I need to talk to somebody about this? Because the point is, I think a lot of us, and we talked about this many times, growing up, us as men say, look, man, take it, man, handle it, do whatever you got to do, and especially back in the day when I was growing up, if you talk therapist, oh, something's wrong with you. Are you crazy? So when did you find the courage that, you know what, I gotta break the cycle. I gotta talk to somebody. Yes, Jesus is there, but I gotta talk to. What was that motivation that got you to say, you know what, let me talk to somebody because I've got to break the cycle? What pushed you to that point?
So I'll say therapy. I'm going to speak therapy in the clinical sense. That was later on in life when I guess I had to be 17, 18. And nobody knew that I was doing it because I've had my own car since I was 14. I was playing in the club at 14. I had a car at 14, and because I had a hardship license because I was a musician and I was making money. I could play back then as a boy. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I did. So by the time I was 18, I was really a fully functioning dude. I was a fully functioning man. So I had doctor's appointments. I had all type of stuff that my mom had no idea that I did. So I literally was I was in an actual program at that time, and my family didn't know. You know what I'm saying? Because I got diagnosed with DID, dissociative identity disorder. So we're talking about multiple personalities. And growing up, and it's funny because when I hear people have there's this stigma that's attached to it. And CJ can attest to it. CJ has seen me. I can be two different people at the exact same time, and it's unless you like those closest to me, it'll spook you. And but I'm really on the line between people who see that and they say, "Oh, that's the devil. That's a spirit. They're possessed." Versus that's seriously something that's going on. What I think mental illness is truly is the body's, the flesh's ability to try and deal with what's going on in the spiritual sense. Okay. That's really what I felt like it was for me. Because how they say, sir?
Go ahead.
Like, do you know how they say, like, you can speak sickness onto yourself? You know what I'm saying? I don't believe diabetes is just a sickness. I believe it's a spirit. I believe it's a spirit. And
now go back. Just 1 second. Going back to this, I was going to be asking a question that related to the associative identity disorder in the area of how did you feel about yourself?
Oh, Pop. I don't like this. Y'all ask some questions, man.
My brother.
Yeah. That's Yeah.
We here with you, my brother. We are here with you, my brother.
Yeah. We're with you, man.
You know, when you don't know who to be, and you try to manufacture it by any means necessary, man.
Yeah.
By any means necessary. I felt like I didn't have a purpose of my own. I really didn't. You know, I felt like growing up as a boy, it was about my mom. You know, even with the teenage dude, it was about him. You know, with my granddad, I loved to play the piano, but it was about calming the savage beast so you would make me go outside. You know what I'm saying? Everything was always about everybody else, and nothing could be about me. And because I had to be so many different people for so many at the same time.
Mercy.
At the same time, man.
Mercy, my brother.
It was a heavy weight to carry, man. Heavy weight.
And it's like, you know, I was talking to CJ. It's funny. CJ happened to see me at church like last Saturday. He was like, man, you know, it was good to see you up there. But a lot of people know me for music ministry for years. I mean, for years, 30 years, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, but people don't know like that. I struggle with resenting music.
Because of the connection.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I worship and you know, like even I'll be honest, like even in the Adventist church, you know, like I was always a little extremist, you know, but a lot of times when I would be going in, that would literally be warfare. Because as much as I wanted to be there, I didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
You know, and but again, it's a duty, it's an assignment. And then I feel like, bam, that comes from God. So I'm getting it from them. I'm expecting from this. And even from God, it's like, I know how to lead people into worship.
Mm.
I know how to identify with that spirit that comes in of heaviness. Heaviness, I know heaviness.
Mm.
Like I can feel it. I can sense it in the room.
Mm.
I can, and folks be like, it don't take all that. And that's why I would holler out, it takes all that and more.
That's
when you
right.
try not to lose your mind, y'all telling you, look, y'all about to see the wrong side of me. I'm gonna slip, man. But when you try not to lose your mind, man.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have cried. He knows, man. Like Dallas City Temple, I have cried on my knees, just like, God, why? And it's just every opportunity, isn't it? Every opportunity to minister became the experience of letting it go and letting it out. But I didn't realize how much I had been carrying.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's another. That's another part of it. The question is, were those people, parents, grandparents, those associated, those adults back there, did they have a religious background, and how did they say transfer, or did they transfer any of that to you? Were you able to relate to anything that they believed and to accept or reject, or based upon what transpired?
I was so hungry for God because I was a musician. I would adapt to whatever church that I was in. So when I played in the Kojic church, I was Kojic. When I played in the Baptist, now I grew up Baptist, so Baptist. So I was Baptist the entire time. When I was I was at an apostolic church. I was apostolic. And again, this goes back to the dissociative. The being able to dissociate very well, very well. Literally in my closet, I would have suits for this, that, and the other. Literally same color, same different. Like you can ask CJ. I had suits I wore on Sabbath.
That's right. Yep.
Suits on Sabbath that the Sunday folk never saw, never knew I had. I could be out of a black suit and I would never touch this side because that's the Sabbath suits. But it would be a psychological thing.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I was so deeply rooted in, I knew the word. Because my granny wasn't just a musician. And my papa didn't, he just wasn't he was a deacon. He was a Sunday school teacher. Like we are talking about devout. I'm talking about, after dinner, he reading a Sunday school lesson, getting ready in the week.
Yeah.
And this is in a time where there was Sunday school, regular service, BTU, prayer service. And she was the minister of music. So literally my family was she was known. My grandmother was like, there was it was like a Baptist Ministers Union or whatever, or they were called like the General City Conference or whatever, but it was like a coalition of black churches. And my grandmother was known for going around and playing for their noonday service. Because that's what she did. Everybody knew Sister Hicks. Everybody knew her. But guess who would be with her all the time? Me. So all that was getting poured into me. I mean, I was rich and young. Got everything else like that. So, and also because I had the stutter when I was in elementary school, my wife's aunt was my speech pathologist.
Oh, wow.
My
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, you told me.
Pathologist. And get this, she was the first person that I told that anything was happening. Even from when I was younger, the girl, like she was the first person I told, because every time I try to get something out, it said I couldn't. And then I had harsh uncles who were like, they were cussing, basically telling me to get it out, slapping my hand, talking about, you're a faggot, you're a sissy, you quit that, and I can't, I know how to do it too, but I can't talk how they talk on here, you know what I'm saying? It was harsh, y'all. I'm talking about mechanic talk, like, I mean, I got pimps in my, in my bloodline, straight up, I mean, like pimps, like in my bloodline, straight up, drug dealers in my bloodline, killers. And so when they coming at you, it's just, is harsh,
Yeah.
you know, and dealing with all of that, you know what I'm saying? And so, and Pop, I hope I answered your question. I know it went a little deep, but what I hate to say for y'all is, for me, your questions are never just that easy, because it's so much stuff that is connected to, and it's so much stuff I ain't told y'all that's happened yet, you know? So much stuff, you know?
But I do want to go back to when you said you were a teenager, 17, 18, and your parents didn't know that you went to therapy. Because what I want people to know is, you know, how did you figure out, okay, I need to talk to somebody? Because you made that decision. Nobody else made that decision for you. So I want to go back to, what was that thing that clicked for you? You said, you know what? Let me go talk to somebody, because apparently it wasn't your parents, it wasn't anybody else, but you on your own realized, I got to talk to somebody.
I had played at a club one night, and I think I had to be about 16, 17. And I fake ID, please. I've been having one. I got to make my money. And a lot of clubs, honestly, would let me in, knowing how old I was, because I was playing. My money.
Bringing money in.
You know. And a lot of times I would wait till my mama go to sleep. And because my mom technically didn't have she had a no door closed policy. Like I would sneak out when I knew she was asleep. But so at those ages, it was like I was already doing that. One night I woke up on a curb, sitting on the side of a curb, arm bloody, arms from here to here, and it wasn't my blood.
Mercy.
And like when I came to, you know, I was like, I need help with this. And it had been happening, but I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was. You know,
was alcohol ever involved?
Sir?
Was alcohol ever involved?
No, sir. No, sir. Alcohol did not. Honestly, I was green in that way. I didn't start doing that. The only thing I did was I smoked cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes since I was 12.
You know, I gotta admit, man, as much as we've talked, you know, you and I on that level, it's just like hearing it now again and to more detail. It's just like it's hitting me like it's brand new again. Like I can feel as you're sharing your story and you're connecting these different things, showing how generation after generation, how all of these things are connected. Man, it is just, it's really impacted me, man.
So,
and the thing about it is that Justin decided to break the cycle.
That's right.
See, that's a key part of it. And so I'm really glad that you are on this show to be able to express yourself and give the audience hope. There's some people out there who need hope and who can see in your experience some way out and get to the point where they can say, no, I'm stopping it right here. I'm not going to let it go on.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So Justin, I have a question, almost like what Dr. Henry said. So now that you're at the point now where, you know, you can kind of see what's going on, you kind of understand what was going on in your childhood, and you still have some challenges. When do you think, when you look back and you say to yourself, God was there to change my life to the way it is now? You know, what was going on, or what was the circumstance that you know, because you know, if someone heard your testimony, a lot of people would say, well, where was God? You know, why would you let all these things happen to this young man? That type of thing. But now that you've gone through a lot of that stuff, and now you're now mature, you know, where is the place where you could say it was right here, that if this didn't happen, God took me here and got me on the right track, helped me to learn how to find my own, you know, my own way, you know, put right people in my life, all that type of stuff. Do you have a situation like that you could pinpoint that something like that happened?
I have so many of them. Like I have so many of them, and he was there all throughout because watch this. I was so many Justins at the same time, and I was struggling to remember. And a lot of times, people would see me out, and I would not have an idea who they were. I learned how to not. I've been able to work within my psyche to teach myself that my altars don't have a name. They are all but integral parts of who I am.
Yeah.
That I'm not crazy. You know, if anything, I've been touched, and that honestly, watch this. If you've been touched in the negative way, because it's spiritual, that means that this positive stuff has gotten in. Just because, think about it, the negative does nothing but mirror the positive. That's it. The enemy can't do anything of his own accord. He can just contort and manipulate. So if he could get in this much, and I can hear him, that means I can hear God that much clearer than anybody else too. And nobody sees trauma like that. Nobody sees it as a superpower. Watch this. If you think about the X-Men, what they did, okay, they would tear up houses because their families did not know how to manage their uniqueness.
Yes.
It was a problem what they had until it was able to be shifted, and now it's a superpower.
That's right.
Yeah.
Managed. It's a superpower when it's cultivated, you know, and nurtured. And so for me, all throughout it, God was in it because he was keeping my mind in the midst of it. But he would be in it in relationships. I have so many, I have so much favor with so many people. I have so many mamas. I have so many pops. I have so much. I have so many people who have poured into me. I have literally had so much people pouring in me. So watch this. At any turn, whoever I've been, I've always wanted information, and I wanted knowledge, and I needed wisdom. So imagine getting that from a place of 21 different people, all inside, and then you learn how to manage being all of that at the same time.
Yes.
And I've heard you sing. I've heard you sing, and believe me,
yes, sir.
Yeah, it's out of this world, man. It's you could feel the spirit, man. You could, I mean, it ministered genuinely, you know, and people can feel it, you know, and so the other question I have is with your relationship, how much were you did you feel free enough to disclose to your prospective and then your wife? How much did you feel that you could disclose, and what was their reaction?
I'll be honest with you. Every single woman I've ever dated knows from beginning to end, and they knew it before they got with me.
That's good. Yeah.
Every single one of them. Everything from my mental issues to everything else like that, to stuff I don't remember, to how not to trigger me, to how to get me to come back. I mean, they would know this stuff before making a decision to even be with me.
That's right.
Good.
Yeah. I want to go.
Because the worst thing you can do is surprise somebody like that.
Yes.
And my thing is, if you're not the type of woman who can take my story and deal with me, then you're not for me.
That's right.
Right.
You're not for me. And it's not like I didn't have a lot of options, because here I am, this charismatic, flamboyant, you know what I'm saying, guy. Yes, I'm all of those things, but at every point in my life, I was always in the limelight. I was always in the spotlight. Always. I had a stutter and couldn't speak, but her aunt, my wife's aunt, taught me how to talk, put me in oratory contests, and in elementary school, I was winning back to back to back to back. Young man, your arms are too short to box with God. I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? I mean, straight up, the origin story in Genesis. I mean, I was bringing it. I have a dream, please,
Oh,
man.
man.
Look, I mean, I was doing all of that
Yeah.
in elementary
Yes.
school because that's how she figured out and this is what she figured out. I had been in church so much and seen so much church because my granny that I could imitate a preacher. Now, watch this. I could get up on stage and do that, and then you try to ask me a question in a regular sentence, and I can't get it out. When I get up on stage,
Flowed out. Wow.
Donnie McClurkin, you watch this. Donnie McClurkin talks about how he struggled to sing, and there was a special issue that he had with his vocal cords for years. And he said that nobody knew, but he would reach this warmth in his voice where he would hit this frequency. And I don't know if y'all heard Donnie sing. That high note that he hits, it seems like it opens up and it goes from raspy to piercing clear. It's like you don't know what that is, but God gave him that. And that's how I felt like my stuff was. Even now, you can ask CJ. When I get excited, I will stutter. I mean, I've stuttered on here with you guys, but let me get up and sing or preach. You don't hear it at all. Let me speak. I just stuttered there. You know. So it does not happen. It does not happen. And it's almost as though, watch this. Just like I felt like I was being used in this area and being used in this area and being used in this area, understand with all those usings came resentment. I would also feel the same way about God, because when he would use me that way, after I was done, I didn't know how to see it as honor. I felt it as violation.
You hold that thought, Justin, because I have to ask this, my brother. We cannot. I don't want to rush through this because number one, what you're sharing is not over yet. We've only scratched the surface of that. So I want to ask you if you'd be willing to come back next week and continue with it. Because
that would be good.
This is way too important for us to breeze through what you're sharing and not really have the time to have the discussion surrounding it. You know, the story that you have shared, I mean, is already compact. Right? We could have so many conversations about what you shared. And that's why I want to end it here so that we don't get too far, because again, Justin, I'm going to back up a little bit and say about your singing. One thing that has always gotten me is every time you go up to that mic and you share some experience before you sing, the emotional connection to the worship that you bring is like no other. When you go up there to sing, I don't look at it as you're singing a song. I look at it as your voice and your body is crying out to God. And you are inviting the rest of the congregation to cry out and connect with him the same way.
Yes, man.
And I'm sharing that because I feel those emotions and get emotional when I hear you sing, because I feel that connection. So again, man, I want people to really digest your story. I want them to really hear everything that you want to share with us. And so that's why I want to bring you back. And I'm going to leave it at this cliffhanger. I'm gonna leave it at this cliffhanger, man. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to be vulnerable here, because it's not an easy thing. You get emotional in sharing it because you're connecting back to those flashbacks. And you're talking through it again, and that is bringing up those emotions.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
My hope is that as people are listening, they connect to the emotions that you're sharing and the experiences that you're sharing, and they can understand that it is okay to talk about it. it is okay to feel like they can reach out for help. That it is okay to find a group or an individual, trustworthy individual that you can speak to, because bottling it up and keeping that in is not healthy at all.
No, man.
So again, thank you, Justin.
Yeah, bro.
Fellas, it has been an awesome night. I mean, just filled with emotion with Justin's story here. And like I said, this is going to be part 1 of Justin. So we're going to have next week we are going to continue this session, and we're going to have Justin back so that he can share more of his testimony. So,
but there's one thing I want.
Go ahead.
As you're concluding, though, there's something I just have to emphasize on what you said. When Pastor Henry asked that question, when was God? And you said God was there throughout. That you saw him in all those avenues, and that to me for tonight, that was powerful. No matter what we go through, different areas, God is in there in our mess. When we're jacked up, He's there, and that's why you're here tonight.
That's right.
Because through your mess, He was still there in your mess. So even though sometimes in our minds we want to feel like we're alone, but we're never alone. God is still there in our mess, and He has a greater plan. Like I always say, there's gonna be some parts of heaven. When you get there, I'm here because of Justin's story.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's right.
I believe God allows us to go through some stuff so that other people can see the story. I always go back to the story of Job. He was a righteous man.
Yes.
But you know what? He went through all that mess. My mom, when she went through her divorce, she could always look back. She says, look what happened to Job. And I believe this is what part of what your story is going to be, is that some people will make it to heaven because they've heard your story, and that through your mess, you still came out on the other side. So I just wanted to say that tonight. I think that you definitely have a testimony there.
Absolutely.
Yes, definitely so.
Yeah, we really appreciate your your willingness to come and share and to just interact with us and with the listeners, the viewers, all those who will benefit from it. It's a great story, and the Lord has said. You see, the good thing about it, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to even comment on it like that, but the great thing about it is you are not back there.
That's right.
You have come and you are able to look back.
That's right.
You're dealing with issues even now that things may come back to you, but you're looking back. God has brought you through those things to this point.
That's right.
That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
All right, Justin, I'm gonna give you a last word because we can keep going, and I want to save some of this because we have a lot to cover next week when we have you back. But any last words before we sign off?
Just really quickly, and this is just a disclaimer for people. Like, as the story will continue, and please join next week for the story. But mental illness is real, and it is serious, and it is not anything to be played with. It's not anything to make fun of. It's not jovial. It is a psychological thing that can become physiological. Because your body has to be able to, manifest what's going on here some way. So, we are triune beings. And because of that, what I want to say is, when I say God was there all the time, you'll hear people talk about having multiple personalities, whether it's DDNOS or like OSDD or DID, or we can name all of the different kinds of dissociation things. But the thing that God gave me grace in is that I know for a fact that every single altar that people would call an altar, every one of them knew God. Every one of them. And I think what saved me. I think that's why I've been able to come back, because just like in a marriage, how the closer the man gets to God, the closer the woman gets to God. It's like they meet in the middle. That's what's helped me, and that's why I say God was there all the time, because as hard as it is sometimes for me to feel like I'm just being used again when I let him use me, he's been the only thing to make sense and make my psyche be able to come together. So though I may stray, I can never go too far because he's my lifeline. It's it's what gives me, because if without him, when people say without God I would fail, I would literally. I would not be able to keep it's amazing that I can keep my mind together so much and still deal with so much stress that I've dealt with and still keep my psyche intact like that. And so take that stuff serious. Take that stuff serious. And I will say that this is an honor. I'm honored to be in this space. Thank you for making it safe, brothers. Thank you for making this like this is a movement. Thank you. And so listen. Hey, we don't really pull back the covers.
And I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, thanks everyone for joining, and we appreciate everything. Until the next episode, we shall see you. Stay tuned.